Just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to Sidebar Forever. If you like the show, please subscribe to us at sidebarforever.com, as well as share episodes of the podcast on your social media. That way, new listeners can find us as well. It's the 30th anniversary of The Last Boy Scout, and we're all wearing $600 leather pants to celebrate. Okay, $650. Released in 1991, directed by Tony Scott, and written by Shane Black, the film stars Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. Now this is a Friday night, let's grab some pizza and hang out movie if there ever was one. The Last Boy Scout cast Bruce Willis as down-and-out private investigator Joe Hallenbeck, and it also finds Willis just past Die Hard, yet a few years before his second career peak with the films Pulp Fiction and The Sixth Sense. It also introduces in living colors Damon Wayans as a legitimate comedic actor playing the big mouth quarterback Jimmy Dix. In the conversation, we discussed the tumultuous making of the film, the performances of Willis, Wayans, and Halle Berry, and also some little-known trivia about the film's background and production. We also take time towards the end to chop up the credits of screenwriter Shane Black and producer Joel Silver, as well as pay tribute to the film's director, the late Tony Scott. I'm Major Johnson, so what's it gonna be? Head or gut? Because on this episode, it's Swain and I, along with our good pal, Braxton Harrison, as we play back the 1991 buddy action comedy, The Last Boy Scout. I was saying, man, I rewatched the movie again last night. Mm-hmm. Man, I was struck by how, man, I'm sorry to say, a lot of that movie doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's still good. There's real problems. There's like just, what? But man, that movie looks so good. Yeah. It looks amazing. Yeah. Beautiful movie, man. Shit.
It moves really fast. Like
that's what it is. And it glosses over all those incongruities. Yeah. You might think about it like, all right, it's going. Okay, the movie's going. Okay.
Yeah. It's quintessentially like a post MTV generation kind of a music video style of filmmaking where it is quick cuts. Mm-hmm. You're not really always sure who's where and what's going on. Like he doesn't do a great job of placing the characters. It's only when he pulls back and you get like a nice medium shot where you get a sense of where everybody is supposed to be in juxtaposed to one another. Mm-hmm. And then and it'll come up in our conversation, but they had 4 editors on this movie.
I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, it was just an editing nightmare because Scott, like a lot of directors, shoots tons of coverage. Mm-hmm. So he's got cameras over here, over here, over here. He's trying to catch as much as possible. So they had 1,000 different angles going on. And then the final editor, when he came in, I think he had worked on something else that was considered an editing hot mess, and he was the one that ended up putting the final touch on it. So but yeah, it is. It moves really quickly.
Frantic.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, and typically looks like a Tony Scott movie with the smoky.
But I loved it. Oh, I love it. And the shafts of light, and then when they go to Marcone's office, and it's all dark.
Yeah, and then the pool sequence, and all of that.
And where was Marcone's office? Was it at the stadium?
It was at the stadium.
With a fireplace?
Yes. I thought about that too. It just looked cool.
I don't think it was at the stadium. Remember, it was off from the stadium because when he opens the briefcase and it explodes, they see it explode like up on the hill.
Yeah, but he had to leave the stadium to drive to his house.
Yeah. Well, remember, he left the stadium.
Right.
It was, there's a white BMW.
Right.
And he steals the briefcase.
Yeah. So he's leaving the stadium. And I guess he's got a posh office somewhere inside with,
I think so.
Fireplace.
Yeah. Well, Last Boy Scout released in December of 1991, directed by the great Tony Scott, the late great Tony Scott.
Yes.
Script by Shane Black, produced by
Joel Silver,
dog. And starring Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans, Chelsea Field, Nova Willingham, Taylor Negron, Halle Berry as Corey, Bruce McGill, Chelsea Ross, Joe Santos.
Yes.
And a short cameo by Eddie Griffin as the DJ in the club.
No, very short.
All right, man. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Get your buck ass in the cage.
This movie is basically about like a down and out kind of an LA private investigator, a former Secret Service guy whose career is kind of going to shit and his personal life is going to shit. And he gets hired by a buddy or he gets a job from a buddy to be a bodyguard for a stripper, and she ends up getting killed, and then he ends up linking up with her football player boyfriend, played by Damon Wayans.
Yes.
And they uncover some big scheme to make gambling legalized in professional sports, and
which was buried somewhat. At least I felt like
Right.
it wasn't. It was in there, but
right. It was like they said it.
we dodging too many bullets to focus too much on that.
Exactly. Like when I was watching it the last time, and I was doing some reading, I was like, "Is that what that was?
Yeah.
The plot was that was supposed to be about?" I just figured, okay, they killed Corey, and Jimmy was upset about it. And
Yeah.
he got Joe to keep going, and they figured it out.
Yeah.
They could have easily turned that into like a sex I think if this were made more today, it would be like a sex trafficking thing, probably.
You think so?
Yeah, that would have been the big bad, maybe.
Maybe, but I thought the movie did a good job of getting like the hyperbolic nature of football, of American football.
Oh yeah,
Especially at that time.
and that
Yes.
opening song. Oh man,
I mean, it jams you up. Come on, football, everybody.
Your boy from the Righteous Brothers, there's American football, with his mullet and his sunglasses.
Yeah, yo. Like he captured that. Like that Monday Night Football vibe.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even when you watch football today, it's the same thing.
Yep.
You're supposed to get jazzed up when it comes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, for real. This movie had a $43 million budget and it made $114 million, so it wasn't quite a hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was successful, but if they spent $43 million, they probably spent at least another 15 promoting it, so it's like 60, which means they need to make $180 million in order for it to be considered a true hit, which it wasn't.
Right.
But it, like many movies that we talk about on this podcast, it ended up finding like a great life in video and then on cable.
Yeah.
And then, ultimately DVD after the fact. But Adrian's here. I'm here. We're here with our friend Braxton Harrison, who's been on the show before.
Yes.
And he, oddly enough, this is about a down and out PI, but Braxton is not a down and out
not
PI.
down and out. Yeah, so this is I've been a private investigator. I own my own agency here in Atlanta. Going on 20 years. I mean, me and Adrian have history from when I first got started.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie came out like when I was looking into getting into the career.
So literally, really? Okay.
I didn't know anything about. All I had was the romanticized notions of what being a private eye was, and,
Right.
But something about Bruce Willis, to my mind, is like he always plays a private eye in every role he does. And I wanted to get y'all's input on that.
Yeah.
But I feel like whatever he is doing, even, if he's playing a cop or what he is playing, that private eye, cynical thing. What do y'all think?
Yeah, 'cause he has that gimlet eye almost. Like, I'm getting to the bottom of this, and I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
Well, he's really a real smart ass.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
He does that thing with his lip, and he's looking off to the side.
Mm-hmm. I think also too he's as far as leading men go, he is probably the last of kind of like the strong silent types, which is what you kind of get from PIs, guys who are thinking a little more than they're talking, and when they are talking, like you said, he's a smart ass.
Yeah.
But I kind of always, in every movie, I always see John McClane or Joe Hallenbeck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, as a matter of fact, the hardest, the one where he actually did kind of move away from that was Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Which he did later on, where I really felt like, okay, he's not those characters in this. He's somebody else in this. He's
That's
somebody
got to be the only movie, though. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
I
you
mean,
got
I really
Unbreakable,
struggle.
too.
But that was just kind of like
he almost just seemed like he was just sleepy in that one.
That was Joe Hallenbeck basically like, okay, he's not even a PI anymore. Now he's a security guard. He's living in a crappy apartment with his wife and, still on the outs with the wife. And,
well, that's another thing about being a PI is like, I always think, if my life really falls apart, and I become an alcoholic, my wife leaves me, I'm still kind of doing, I'm still going to be cool,
Still in the ballpark.
Yeah.
My story still continues.
Yeah. I'm not losing all out.
That's awesome, man. Adrian, what was because you're younger than we are. What was your earliest memory of this movie? Did you, now this was 91.
Yeah.
So did you see it in the theaters?
No.
Okay.
In fact, it was one of those things was like, I didn't really see it in total, you won't believe this, until my early 20s. And that was the thing of like, I saw a couple of my friends, I remember back in 6th grade, my friend Saifullah was like, hey man, did you see The Last Boy Scout? Yeah. I was like, oh no, I ain't seen it yet. He had gone to see it in theaters.
Yeah.
And then it was also a ABC Sunday night movie. Yet
again.
Always. It's like one of those things, I was too young to stay up past 9, so I always hear it from the bedroom. My dad would be watching it, so I'm like, oh man, damn.
That sounds hot. That sounds hot.
That sounds good. A lot of bang bang and,
people
all that
getting
stuff.
killed.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, the censoring of swear words. Man, to shoot your football head off.
Oh man. There would be a ton of censoring in this
exactly,
movie.
So I didn't see it until my early 20s. And I think by that time, the reason why it taken me so long is that's when I really got into movies and I really became a cinephile.
Right.
And once I got into it, I was like, man, it's a strange movie. It was a strange movie when I first saw it. I was hit at first by like just the look of the movie. Because I knew Tony Scott as far as like Top Gun and all of his Bruckheimer stuff and things like that. But just the look of the movie is what impacted me first, And then beyond that, I knew that Tarantino loves this movie.
Really?
Yeah, that's one of his favorites.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look it up, Tarantino liked it, and I remember reading that around that time. So I was like, okay, if it's good enough for him, shit, I'll give it. I'll give it a try.
Right.
And just it was a good movie that grows on you. To me, it's almost like a cult classic. It approaches that kind of vein. You know what I'm saying? It's a popular big budget movie, but because it's so weirdly paced and has kind of like this strange feel about it, I think it's more cult now than anything, for sure, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Brax?
Well, I mean, going back to Bruce Willis, this is definitely, I just think it's a Bruce Willis vehicle. Like when I think just as much as Die Hard to me. Mm-hmm. But I think that, you had talked about this being post-MTV style filmmaking.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting more into the frantic action shots and, definitely Tony Scott's style of movie making is written all over this. And, I personally like that. I think this movie has a lot of testosterone in it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like the sensibilities.
Oozing.
It
is oozing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your football and just Hallenbeck's character and his approach to, and some hokum, we're doing drugs in the bathroom and he's punching the guy over, doing drugs, which, if Adrian was at my house and I walked in and he's, doing a little bump or something, I would say, hey, man,
Man, I
wouldn't punch you.
I wouldn't disrespect your house, though.
Don't be tooting in my bathroom, man.
Yeah, don't be tooting in my bathroom.
Yeah, but first it starts, I had Deborah off my pancakes because your knees are shot.
And then you general, and then he spit
wow.
blood and spit is dripping from his mouth. I was like,
don't you want to stay to my fucking life? Get out.
What did y'all think about Wayans? Do you think that he did a good job?
He was terrible to me.
You really?
I mean, he was certainly not an actor, but he's a comedic actor and he has charisma. He could make you laugh and you could stay engaged with him. But I mean, like when they gave him like serious stuff to do, like any kind of heavy lifting, I was just like, oh, bro.
Yeah.
Stop.
I thought, for my money, I thought that he did okay. I mean, in that scene in the bathroom, And certainly the scene where he's telling, pre-Corey, he had a wife and kid.
The let's reveal something about ourselves conversation.
Right, of course. Every silver movie has it. Yeah.
So back then, this is what happened, and then the music and the swell of the yeah.
I mean, look, there are worse actors in my book that.
Oh, sure,
probably.
But the thing is, it's almost like it's like they say the sin is not to be good, but to be boring.
Yeah,
he's not boring.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He is interesting to watch, and you're all kind of like, okay, he does seem like a big mouth, football player, kind of a guy, or whatever. But he was okay. But he wasn't Academy Award winning. Now, Halle Berry was the worst. I mean, like, she was terrible. And this is like her second feature film.
It was.
I think this and Jungle Fever or something came out maybe in the same year.
And there was one right around the same time in 91 called Living Large.
Yeah. So she was like really like modeling.
You going bitch slapping.
But I finished with your point you were talking about, Damon.
About Wayans?
Yeah.
I thought he did okay. I mean, he carried as much of the freight as Willis, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Halle Berry, she wasn't in it enough. She was so young in that movie, man.
Yeah. She's like 23 or something.
Yeah,
22.
and on a previous episode, you had mentioned her mustache.
Yes.
In this film.
Yeah, not this one.
Not this one?
No, this
because I didn't see it. Which
Executive Decision is the one.
Oh, okay.
Go back to that one. You're gonna see a little senior, yo.
Man, look, man, I would hate for Halle Berry to hear this and say, "Oh, man,
I have it on good authority that she's not gonna listen.
You don't
to
think
this.
so?"
But
man.
I think I saw this in the theaters.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I saw this in theaters. When it came out, definitely was a Bruce Willis fan. Was not like an In the Living Color guy. So, but I knew who Damon Wayans was from that, and from like he had little bit parts in like Colors.
Yeah.
And Beverly Hills Cop. He was the banana guy.
Yes. Yes.
And he'd done some TV like in Different World and some other things. So I knew who he was, and I knew he was related to Keenan. Because I knew Keenan from Hollywood Shuffle and all.
They're brothers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was in Hollywood Shuffle too. He had a small part in that. But I think I saw this in the theaters. I think I remember being entertained by it. Like you said, it's a popular popcorn movie.
Yeah.
This is like what I call the Friday night get some pizza movie.
Yes.
Definitely.
Where you just like you put your feet up and just kind of just let it all out.
Yeah.
So but I do remember. Like it because I didn't love I didn't love Top Gun. I didn't love Beverly Hills Cop 2. But I really liked this, probably because of Shane Black's script and the humor.
Yeah.
And some of that, and then
and this was the change in filmmaking. This like Top Gun and Beverly Hills Cop didn't look like with the frantic edits and all that.
Well, he's starting to get there. You can see it definitely more in Beverly Hills Cop 2, for sure. He's starting to angle that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see some of it. In fact, you can almost call Scott like the architect of that Bruckheimer style.
Yeah.
It's like when Michael Bay comes along afterwards, he's taking tenets of Scott's style and
I'm glad that you dropped those names because I felt like Bruckheimer, Michael Bay, like their DNA is in this movie as I'm watching it. And I forgot that, but going back and looking at this movie, you could see, I don't know, maybe it's a progenitor or an early cousin of all of that style or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. His style, like by the time he gets to like Man on Fire and all that later on, it's like what if cocaine was directing a movie?
It's not just that filmmaking, but it's also, I think all those movies again have that injection of testosterone.
Yeah.
And,
like
I could see, some out in the country man's man type of man, like enjoying these movies because of, the male masculine sensibilities.
Oh no, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
It's movies that my dad liked.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He and I would be able to watch them, but I knew he loved them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it had plenty of killing in it.
Yeah.
You know, it got killing in it. It's good.
Somebody's going to die, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, it's that whole, it blowed up real good. It's that whole enjoyment of the explosions, which it kind of brings me to like a point of interest. Watching the movie and having seen it so many times, I started putting it on the notepad of my phone, little things that kind of stood out to me, like Eddie Griffin as the DJ. I didn't remember that at all until I rewatched it this time, and then they were playing that Prince song, and I was like, oh man, they had a Prince song in here, and then he makes the reference. Damon Wayans makes the reference to Prince later on.
I like Prince.
And
you just see Bruce was great character for just a second.
He does that.
Exactly.
I wish you can't translate that, over the just audible, but there's that Bruce Willis side
kind of
look,
sucks his teeth, and
sucks his lip, purses his lips, turns and grins slightly.
Yeah.
Then he'll say something. I don't know. Maybe he does that whole.
But what the thing I noticed was, like, people in Shane Black movies get killed in the most over the top, ridiculous ways. It's like, okay, C4 car bombs and public executions and traffic accidents, and
How can we get this helicopter under him so he falls into
exactly, that, and or helicopters, snipers and helicopters in ritzy neighborhoods in the canyons, and you're like, just the craziest things, like in Lethal Weapon, the first one. Mm-hmm. Why would you blow up Dixie's house?
God, you got to make a point. Yeah.
Just strangle her like you would any other prostitute. Just choke her out. That's what they do.
It's just like, we talk a lot of comics, or you guys talk a lot of comics. And, comics is about, all right, I got to tell this. This person has to die in this scene. How can this be visually interesting?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it just seems like a waste of our good C4 on the $50 prostitute. There's something about the risk investment here just doesn't seem. But that stood out to me, and then the other thing was just in terms of like a trope was like foul mouthed or bratty kids who don't like their parents.
Oh man,
that was an 80s and 90s trope for a long time, like Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
Adventures in Babysitting, True Lies. The kids, doesn't like the dad, and
but it's a telltale sign that the scriptwriter never had kids. You know what I'm saying? Just you're making the kids act like how you would want to have acted towards your parents.
Right.
Talking back and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I don't know the actress's name, but she was in the Halloween movie.
Danielle Harris.
She was definitely grating. I mean.
Yeah,
especially when she and Damian Wayne's character would talk, like she would just get on my nerves.
Oh, that's the part of the movie where it was like,
I'm going with you.
Please just,
you're right.
Yeah, can we please move on to the woods? Can we please just go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Adrian, you mentioned earlier about some of the issues with the story. What are some of the things that were glaring to you in this recent watch that maybe weren't so much when you were younger?
The glaring thing, the biggest incongruity is how people treated Jimmy Dix in terms of, my dad Joe, you're a hero to him, but yet you treated Jimmy like shit, and then even when they first come in, the daughter's like just talking all this bad shit and everything, and then when he gets kicked out the bathroom and Joe tells him, get out.
Right.
She's waiting by the front door like, hey, sign my card.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, now you know who he is?
Right.
Yeah.
How do you not know that he has his high school number on the back of his head if you're such a fan or whatnot?
Yeah, the whole fact that Hallenbach was such a fan of Jimmy Dix, and then, he met him at the strip club.
As if he didn't know who he was.
Right.
And he's
super unimpressed.
This case with protecting Corey is so important that I can't even... Hey, I know who you are. I used to be a big fan, but I can't tell you anything about why I'm taking...
I take that back, though, Brad.
But again, less dynamic in terms of their meeting, in terms of the story. It's like, okay, we got to have a thing where they, becomes like a pissing contest or whatever, so...
Yeah, but he did kind of acknowledge him, like he threw some stats at him. He was like, yeah, Jimmy Dix, best arm in the league, 89-90, L.A., whatever the team's name was.
The Stallions or something?
Yeah, L.A. Stallions.
Yeah.
blew your knee out or whatever like that. So he knew of him.
Yeah.
And I think, but it just wasn't subtle enough.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's almost like he was trying to play it cool, but he was so disappointed once he saw him doing drugs in the bathroom and everything.
Right.
And then the other thing, too, was just like Jimmy Dix's character in general. You know what I'm saying? I thought he should have been a bit more assertive. When the plot takes Hallenbeck out for a minute, you know, and then it's just Dix like, okay, I got to find Joe. You know, none of this. Oh, what would Joe do? What would Joe do? No.
Yeah.
You take the assertive role and say, all right, this is the part of the film. This is part of the plot where it's like, all right, let me actually assert myself and build the character that way too.
Right.
I just felt they didn't do enough of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, they painted Jimmy Dix as somebody who, like you remember in the car chase, he's squealing. I heard a little bit of squealing.
A little bit.
He handed him the revolver, and he's like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" You know, and I'm like,
And so like you're saying, like, oh, car chase. Okay, you never driven fast before. You're a football player, probably have a Maserati or a Ferrari or something.
Yeah.
And then he gives him the gun. He's like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? But then at the end of the movie, he just jumps on this horse, you know, and he's riding. And I'm like, okay, well, were you raised in like, you know, Northern California, riding horses?
He jumped on the horse from behind the horse.
That's what I'm saying. Like, damn, like an old cowboy movie.
I know, right?
Right. But I thought too, like even like at the point where the goons come and they crack, you know, Joe in the back of the head, and then the one guy drags him in the alley. That actor, and I forgot his name.
Baja Jola.
Yeah, you've seen him in other things.
Oh yeah,
and you know, and then you know, of course, Hallenbeck's character starts wisecracking at him, and gets him to laugh, and then catches him with the bottle.
You bastard!
And it was like, and I did like that thing. It was like, yeah, it was like a big pimp motherfucker wearing a hat. slap her thigh and ride the wave in, and all of that. You know, all those were like classic, like bathroom jokes that we told in high school or whatever.
But you know, it's so funny how the movie is so self-aware. You know, like it's totally aware of itself. It almost breaks the fourth wall. It's almost as if Bruce Willis wants to look at you, the audience, and like
and make you laugh.
Exactly,
you know, like,
exactly. But it's so aware of itself, and it's almost as if Shane Black is just because right here is where like that whole '80s action movie wave is really reaching its zenith, really reaching its crest.
Right.
I don't think it really reaches the sheer apex until, of all things, Last Action Hero, where there's enough behind it to make fun of that whole genre.
Yeah. Right.
But here you have Shane Black doing it in the script. Like, he knows what this is.
Yeah.
He wrote one of the movies that was the blueprint for what this is.
Yeah.
Right.
So, of course, he's going to be aware of it and poke fun at it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Definitely that. And I think that's kind of the thing, like in Shane Black movies, you know, the over-the-top killing, that's something you see a lot. The wisecracking kind of a strong lead, you see that a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely a stripper has got to die, or a prostitute has got to die.
Got to die, man.
You know, there's got to be some drugs. There's got to be a big bad. There's got to be like a mini big bad, which I guess was Taylor Negron's
there's got to be a lieutenant
Milo.
to the big bad. Yeah.
Man. You know, you got to
what
have
a great character he was. Too.
He was. And he's like somebody as a character actor that you've seen in many things. Mm-hmm. Even though he has a slight lisp and he had that frosted hair and he kind of struck you as maybe just a bit effeminate.
Sure.
He was still very sinister and like scary, where you were just like, I don't really want to fuck with this guy.
Yeah.
You know
what it reminded me of? There were several callbacks to, of all things, Chinatown in here. Mm-hmm. You know, one where he has Joe cornered and he puts the knife, the switchblade, up to Joe's nostril.
Right. I thought about that right away. Yeah.
I remember thinking of that scene when that.
Yeah. You nosy boy? Huh? You nosy boy? Huh? You know we did a nosy boy?
Look at that nose catch. Oh.
You know, just a brief tangent or divergent. Another slight callback to that, and I told you and I texted you, I don't think you responded, but I rewatched Deep Cover recently.
Oh, I did respond to you.
Did you?
We talked about it. Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember if we did or not. But in Deep Cover, the bad guy goes up to Wesley Snipes. He goes up to Lawrence Fishburne, and he snatches his earring out of his ear.
Yep.
And it's and every time I see it, I'm like, ooh. So that even reminded me of Chinatown when that happened. But But yeah, you're right, man. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, like you're saying, like this was, I think, Shane Black's third script. The third one that he sold.
And there was a bidding war for it. Like, this was also around the time that a lot of those scripts were starting to go for buku money. There was Last Boy Scout, and then after this, there was Basic Instinct by Joe Esterhazy, I think. And, you know, that script going for, it sold for over $1 million.
I think was it $3 million I read?
It was something like that. Like, he got up high.
So I think Shane got 1.7 for this, and then after this, Joe Esterhazy got $3 million for Basic Instinct.
That's right.
And then Shane Black got $4 million for the Long Kiss Goodnight.
What?
$4 million.
Wow.
$4 million.
I know they put a cap on there. It was like, that's gonna be enough of this shit right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
For writing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you got to think like William Goldman, you know, who's considered the greatest screenwriter of all time. You know, he would get. It's almost like when you look at like pro football players today and the big script contracts that they get today, and then the guys back in the day who had worse equipment, worse padding, bodies got beat the fuck up, you know, way quicker, and they would make like, you know, if the richest guy in the NFL in the 50s maybe made $100,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that's Rudy Poot money now, you know.
Yeah, like they would have to have a second job and shit. You know what I'm saying?
You know, so but said $4 million.
Damn.
$4 million. And supposedly, Joel Silver wasn't the one who outbid. There was another company that actually outbid Joel Silver. They wanted to pay closer to $2 million for the script, but he had a relationship with Silver from Lethal Weapon, and he was just like, you know, he just felt like, okay, this guy will be able to translate the movie better. And actually, odd enough, supposedly, this is the movie that Shane Black supposedly said, okay, I just need to direct my own movies because, you know, nobody does them right. Nobody does them the way I feel them.
He didn't feel like this movie was done?
Well, from what I understand, he wrote the script, turned it in. They said the script was a lot darker and it was better than the movie. Everybody who's read the original script says it's better.
It is.
But they rewrote it to death. And so some of the incongruities...
I would like to read, like, I wonder how it could be darker. I guess take the comedic element out of Damon Wayans' character, Jimmy Dick's character, and you know, lean into the fact he lost his wife, and
that's exactly what it is. When you read the original script, that's exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, I could see this movie. All right, this movie is a vehicle for the action movie we've been talking about, but I can see this movie also being a true nod, an exercise in, you know, noir. You know, like the PI noir,
right?
Probably the happy ending. There wouldn't be an Irish jig on the. It would probably be something.
Or Joe doesn't shave and he gets back with his wife at the end, and they're all on the lawn, and he goes walking, and hey, maybe you'll come to work for me in my business.
That wouldn't happen.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right about that for sure. Did you guys? Was there anything else that stood out to you all watching this at this most recent time that again just didn't stand out?
The death of the dogs.
Oh yeah!
Did y'all catch that? Like,
no.
Like when the car blew up.
Dog number one.
The ball.
The ball that was burning after.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Oh yeah,
that dog died.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, and Zeus and Apollo.
Shelley
Marcone's dogs. They're gone too. They got blown up too.
Got blown up. That's right.
That's 3 dogs in one movie, man. You can't do that nowadays.
Yeah. You're right about that.
I felt like it was fast paced, like to the nth degree. I mean, it just moved, man. But I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I noticed how much it followed like that Lethal Weapon formula almost, like note by note by note. You have the car scene and always in Joel Silver movies, you have the scene where both of the protagonists are in a car and they have that bonding moment there.
Right.
You know, always it happened in Lethal Weapon.
Right.
They're riding in the car, they bond. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta have the domestic life. Oh, why don't you come over for dinner, man? Let's sit and chat.
Yeah.
So we see how one of their we see both of their domestic lives, but we see one with the family. So we get that interaction with the family, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, you got a great wife and kids there, man.
What's Jimmy Dick's domestic life when he's standing over smoking, going, oh man, Corey's going to find out about this. Ooh.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, too. I mean, look at that. I mean, also with Lethal Weapon, you see Martin Riggs, his home life is smoking, just self-loathing, suicidal.
Yeah. Hanging out with his dog.
Yeah.
At least the dog
Murtaugh is domestic, Joe, domesticacy.
Yeah.
That's not even a word, but...
Domesticity? Is that...
There we go. That sounds better.
Okay, yeah.
Domesticity.
You get it.
But you know what? That's funny because, again, even some of... I think the actors probably brought a little more of to life as far as the Murtaughs in Lethal Weapon. Because to some extent, Shane Black, he was a single guy then. Mm-hmm. It's his idea of what he thinks married life is and whatnot.
He's not.
Yeah, right. Okay, but I think it worked, and it certainly felt real enough. Mm-hmm. And even when they finally paired Bruce Willis, when they finally paired Martin Riggs up with Rene Russo's character, and they became a couple, that felt okay. The third one, but the fourth one with the baby and all of that, felt pretty good. That felt pretty good.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, man. I don't know if you guys knew this, but this was a spec script.
Oh yeah,
this was an original idea by Shane Black. So it wasn't something he was paid to do. This wasn't something. It wasn't an assignment or commission.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if he was trying to reach for the buddy. Like, I wonder, what's the connective tissue between this and 48 Hours and the, your standard buddy cop fare?
Well, Silver, that's the connective tissue.
Yeah.
Silver knows, he has the instinct for what will the audience love. It's all about dynamics. Mm-hmm. You have the racial dynamic, black-white.
Yep.
You have the age dynamic. One older experienced, one younger, not as experienced. Yep. Mm-hmm. You're playing with those, and you know what the audience will respond to. Throw a dash of action, a dash of, comedic timing in there, stir the pot up. You got it.
Yeah.
That's what a Joel Silver movie is.
A patina of Halle Berry.
Just a little.
Yeah.
You know what? I was going to mention Chelsea Field, who played Sarah, Bruce Willis's character's wife.
Yes.
Like a thankless role. The whole time she's just this complaining shrew. Joe, you never around, Joe. Where you been, Joe? Joe, she's cheating on him. Not only cheating on him, she's cheating on him with a friend of his.
Yeah.
And then, at the end of the movie, she's, I'm sorry. And it was just like, they just didn't give her any redemption at all. It was like no moment where you just like, and actually, I think in the original script, she's supposed to, Shane Black had her be captured.
And then she had to have died, right?
No, she kills Taylor Negron's character, Milo. She kills him. Yeah. And then he rescues her. And then I think when they approached Bruce Willis about it, he was like, I don't want to do another movie where I play like some guy who rescues his wife. I just did that in Die Hard twice.
Right. Yeah.
So he didn't want to do it again. So that's when they introduced the daughter, and that's when that whole part of it kind of went its way. But yeah, just the idea, like her character is just, how she's just supposed to be the nagging wife. But, I thought it was cool that he was like, but I still love my wife. I wish I still didn't love my wife.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I thought that was actually kind of cool. But you didn't understand why he felt that way. They didn't really explore any of that. And in this type of movie, they're not gonna.
It's funny that you should bring up that Bruce Willis had, interjected that he wanted that to happen with the daughter instead of the wife, because now that upon watching it, I felt like after the daughter was captured, and she's a child, I don't know,
right.
10 or
10, yeah.
Old
enough to curse, but
yeah. But like the story is like, what do we do with the daughter? Want to keep them going. So the first thing they did was they left her with the guy at the pool, which is like, okay, I guess he'll see her off safely. And then the second time, Bruce Willis is like turning her loose at the stadium, which I would never do that to my 9-year-old. Go find a cop. Good luck. All the best. And it's like, yeah, I mean, but if it was the wife instead of her, she would be a little more, I guess, self-sufficient.
Maybe so. And that's what you just made me think. That's what I was going to bring up when Adrian was talking about incongruencies. So, like, he stabs the guy in the neck with the bottle, in the beginning and gets away. And then, when they have him surrounded, in the woods, guns upon guns, henchmen upon henchmen.
Akimbo.
And then the daughter comes walking up with with the little cat doll or whatever, and then he starts telling jokes again. I'm like, this is supposed to work again? You're gonna wisecrack yourself out of this?
Yeah. It worked a while ago. That's my move. That's my move, man.
And I was just like, okay, and I'd be scared shitless if my kid showed up at a situation.
I wouldn't be able to. You would say, wait, this guy's related to this child somehow or another. He is reacting.
And they just let her walk up. Hi, mister. Don't you want to see my cat?
What's he handing her?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is another tenet of Tony Scott's style at this time is you have his admiration of John Woo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can also see it as early as Beverly Hills Cop 2 as well, when Judge Reinhold's character has the duster and the sunglasses and the shotgun, just like Chow Yun-fat. And I think he has a Chow Yun-fat poster on his wall too in his apartment.
Okay.
So you see the two-handed gunplay that Wu does show up in here numerous times.
Right.
Where Bruce will ping, ping, ping. Yeah.
Like Chow Yun-fat and
name him. Killer.
The Killer.
Hardboiled.
Yeah.
Which I have it on good authority. You can't hit anything when you try to shoot like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a buddy. He's a cop, and he was doing some target practice. I mean, he was trying to, hit stuff. You can't hit anything when you're shooting both ends.
Because you got to kind of steady yourself. You got to brace your wrist.
Yeah.
And just kind of,
you might get one shot off, but then, it's...
You just spraying bullets.
Yeah, you just all over the map.
My late brother-in-law had a security company, and he used to say all the time, he said, I go target practice twice a month, just sharp. And he said, but still, when your adrenaline's flowing, he says, you're going to miss.
Yeah.
You're just going to miss.
Yeah.
And you see videos of people like, getting shot in close quarters and it's like grazed or whatever. Like hardly any of them hit center mass or hit anything vital. It's just kind of the way it goes. So that actually makes perfect sense. But
that's another thing. Everything happens up close in a gunfight too. If there's distance, especially if a cop's involved, somebody needs to be investigated. There shouldn't be any distance.
Yeah, there you go. I dug up some interesting trivia, and Adrian may know this too. You may know some of this too. Some of this I kind of knew, but this script was originally called Die Hard.
What?
Really?
It was originally called Die Hard, and Silver said, "Hey, can I use that title for another movie?"
Dang.
And he said, "Yeah, sure." So he let him use it for Die Hard in 88?
88, yeah.
88.
It would fit in this movie.
Yeah. And then he came up with something less. But originally Die Hard was called Nothing Lasts Forever based on the novel.
Yeah.
Shane Black got $1.7 million for the script. Went through extensive rewrites. And Adrian kind of mentioned this in our text exchange earlier. The drugged out psychotic football player in the beginning who goes on the rampage.
Yeah. Billy Go! Billy Go!
He gets that phone call, and then the rain and the darkness.
That scene is great.
That scene is.
I love that scene.
It looks great. Yeah. It's kind of crazy, but
how are you playing football in this?
It's just everyone is just drenched, and just soggy.
Yeah.
But even the fans are like, "We still want to be here." Yeah.
Just like real football.
Like real football.
Yeah.
But the actor who played Billy Cole was Billy Blanks.
That's
right, Billy Blanks.
Absolutely.
The creator of Tybo.
And the kid who calls him is Morris Chestnut.
Is it?
That's the
oh my God!
Like, Billy Cole. That's Morris Chestnut.
Wow.
Oh wow! That's incredible.
And don't forget how big of a monster Billy Cole's character is.
Yeah.
He shoots another player. He's going to kill himself. Why'd he kill this other player?
Right.
What was the point in killing him?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. The scene in the pool with the nose in the brain. Ah, baby! And then he, bam, shoot the nose in the brain. Was taken from the original Lethal Weapon script. it was cut out or rewritten out or whatever, and he thought it was such a cool idea that he put it in this. Mm-hmm. And also, too, medically impossible to push someone's...
That's not true. I mean,
that's what I read.
I mean, I've gone my whole life thinking, man, if I hit somebody just right.
Just right. Well, you do hear that happen. It happened recently. Some guy punched a guy, and the guy died like later, after the fact.
Punched him in the nose. And
something like that, yeah. And it, went in, and then it fucked him up, and he died. So.
Hit me again, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Halle Berry refused to do nudity, even though she was playing a stripper.
Well, that stopped Damon Wayans from just rubbing all over her goodies. I was like, God, dog.
And she's like, behave. Okay, you're laying between my legs.
It looks like they just got done.
Right. Yeah, right. Y'all just got through doing the nasty. Why can't
he's got to behave?
But later on, in another Joel Silver production, Swordfish, she actually does reveal the tatas.
Oh, yes.
In 2001. So, mentioned earlier about they had 4 editors on this because Tony Scott, he shot so much coverage. Mm-hmm. When Tony Scott directed True Romance, and that came out like a year or 2 after this.
Yeah. He
based the character that Lee Donowitz played, Sal Rubinick, the film producer. Mm-hmm. That was based on Joel Silver.
Oh.
So if you remember that character, he was kind of like this coked out asshole.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be Joel Silver. Like he just said, just be Joel Silver. And I guess Lee Donowitz just went.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, Shane Black supposedly, said, okay, I got to direct my own scripts after this because, it was just the whole thing in this movie was, they said too, was like, talking about the movie dripping testosterone. They said it was just just alphas and egos all day. Bruce Willis had done both successful Die Hards. He had done Look Who's Talking 1 and 2, which was successful.
Hudson Hawk.
Yeah, that was but he was definitely like feeling himself. Tony Scott he had a lot of success.
Sure.
He had Beverly Hills Cop. He had
Revenge.
Top Gun. He had Revenge. And Days of Thunder.
Yes.
Where was the Spy Game? The Spy Game wasn't.
That's later.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
way
96, 97.
One of my
98.
favorite movies.
Oh, yeah.
Love that movie.
But yeah, there was a lot of ego play going on. And then Shane Black, he's like, even though he's a screenwriter, they had him do all the rewrites. And he's like, that 1.7, if you rewrite, and that's the thing in Hollywood, some scripts get rewritten like 15, 20 times, before you finally get to a shooting script. And even then they're still doing rewrites sometimes, while they're shooting. So, but, in terms of everybody's career, and then we can talk a little bit about, like Tony Scott, and specifically, but, prior to this, so we had Bruce Willis. He had done Moonlighting. He had done both Die Hards and Look Who's Talking. Wayans had done the things we mentioned, and he had done I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker.
That's right.
Before this. Shane Black had only done Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, so this was literally the third script that he sold. Now, Joel Silver,
of course,
was the beast.
Right? Yes.
Before this movie, he had done Warriors, 48 Hours, Xanadu.
he produced Xanadu?
He produced Xanadu.
What?
Streets of Fire.
Yes.
Weird Science.
Really?
Commando. Lethal Weapon. Predator. Action Jackson.
That's right.
Die Hard, Roger Rabbit, and Roadhouse. All before this.
Biggest fish in the dish. Yeah.
Everybody probably had to be like, look, you got to bow down to this guy.
We got to,
I mean, God damn. You mean that is a fucking resume, yo.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So, anyway, just really interesting. And again, this movie wasn't a super successful movie in terms of its box office, but, we love it.
Yeah.
And
now let me ask you this before we move on.
Sure.
Do you feel like a movie like this and movies of its ilk could be made today the same way?
No.
Because you were talking about testosterone.
I think the audience is too cynical and too
sensitive too.
Yes.
Too sensitive, but they're also too. It's not. They know what this type of movie is.
Right.
Like they would identify it. Like, oh, they're going to do this next. It's got to hit this point. It's going to do this.
We're 30-something, 40-something years into action movies of this kind.
What's a modern action movie that we can think that would be
John Wick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Wick.
And what is John Wick doing but playing on? mean, you got fantastical
gunplay,
yeah,
gun fu.
Yeah, I think the movie going audience is just, there's a bit of cynicism, there's sensitivity.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, you know, a lot of creators are trying to figure out what can we get away with, what we can't get away with.
I think also too, like what you're talking about in terms of the motivation. The motivation can't just be I'm going to punch my way out, I'm going to shoot my way out, or whatever. So, for instance, with John Wick, his wife died, so they try to make him a sympathetic character. Then they kill his dog,
Which makes him super sympathetic.
right? So now, and then the whole 2/3 of the rest of the movie just becomes how awesome it is seeing him cap guys, like shoot him and then shoot him in the head.
This is
shoot him and then shoot him in the head.
But see, and that's why the pieces that I've seen of John Wick and a lot of modern action movies strike me like this. Man, they boring.
I was just about to say,
just
I get
so,
bored.
like-
I do get bored.
The John Wick movies are good. The first one was great, and the second one, they're all entertaining. Like way more than you would think that they are. If you sat down and watched them, you'd find it entertaining. Mm-hmm. And it's not just like a one trick whatever. But I think that Braxton is right that there would be another angle to it. Like when, for instance, another weird tie-in is Damon Wayans is in this, and he was in the Lethal Weapon TV show.
Yeah.
And he actually didn't get along with his co-star in the same way that they say that Bruce Willis and Damon didn't get along in this movie. But I didn't watch that TV show, but I imagine they wrote it out differently. It wasn't the same Murtaugh that we saw in the film. The family dynamic wasn't exactly the same. You just couldn't have Martin Riggs just being, you know, this crazy guy who's just out here killing and shooting and doing all this wild stuff. I'm sure they wrote it in such a way for it to make sense.
Can't make a TV show of that, yeah.
Yeah, for it to make sense, and then also episodically speaking. So
Yeah.
I don't think it could be made today. Certainly not with the testosterone and the language. You know, a couple of fags were dropped in there. That wouldn't happen. If it did, somebody get castigated for it.
Well, it's
Right.
not just the saying that, but it's also, you know, it's the sensibility is there. Like, you know, he's throwing shade on Prince and
And rap music.
oh yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
You want to play some rap music?
yeah.
Yeah. And even him calling the guy like a big pimp looking motherfucker with a hat.
Yeah.
It was just fucking funny. It
Yeah.
just was.
But today-
Because I was thinking that as I'm looking at it. That's a big
Exactly.
pimp looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know?
But if he said that today, you know, it'd be something like, hey, hell
Right.
no.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. And then also too, every character in the movie is kind of even the kid. The kid with her foul mouth. Joe's kind of a scumbag. Jimmy Dix is kind of a drugged out scumbag. Corey's a stripper. Mm-hmm. Marcone's, you know, they're the bad guys are the bad guys.
So you're saying we got more sophisticated movies and characterizations now than these broad strokes of
Maybe so, but to some extent less fun. And now,
Right.
as we've discussed many times before, Adrian and I, and you probably have yourself, the action movie has been given over to superheroes now. There hardly aren't any action movies unless they're on Netflix or...
Yeah, and then, you know, stuff like the Fast and Furious movies, they transformed from what they were, about racing cars, driving fast, maybe a little crime in there, to now, I seen the most ridiculous shit the other day. I saw a piece of this, I guess this latest one, where they go to space.
Yeah.
But they're wearing like the old diving bell suits, and they're driving a car into space? What the hell? Fuck!
Hey, man, they're doing it. And so now the only action movies you see are going to be like John Wick, like something on streaming, like Gunpowder Milkshake, that movie with...
Say what?
Yeah.
Wait, you saw Polar, which was a comic. It was on Netflix.
Yeah. Some of the Korean action movies are really great. I've been watching a lot of those recently.
Yeah, I think it's more about, it seems like now there's so much content being produced that you're getting a lot of experimental stuff just to see if it'll stick. You know, I mean, just think about Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and all these. They have to produce, like, what is their interpretation of an action movie now? What's it gonna look like? And you know, there's boardrooms and stuff where they're, you know, trying to figure it out. What is the interesting slant that's going to be different than what everyone else is doing.
So now you see, and again, the major studios, they're like for instance, this is Shane Black's script for this was an original script. Major studios are based on an IP. Everything has to be based on an IP so it can be franchised, so that we can tie it into other things. So whatever the nerd community is from this IP, whether it be novels or comics or video games or whatever, they'll come to this thing, and then we'll get more people, and then we make all the money, and then we franchise the shit out of it until it has no pulse left. Yeah. And so now any original kind of action movies like Gunpowder Milkshake, John Wick, which was a major studio movie, but like streaming movies, like that movie with Michael B. Jordan, Without Remorse.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, like a Tom Clancy. It's more of a military action movie. That's where they're making those movies at, because studios just don't really have much use for them, don't have much time for them. So, interestingly enough. But
quick aside, did you see who's the guy that played Thor?
Chris Hemsworth.
Did you see that action movie that they did where he played this military contractor or whatever?
That was good.
I think Swain was telling me about the Extraction.
Yeah.
That was so good.
It was so good, man.
And it was good because they were doing experimental... did you see any of the filming of it?
Like behind the scenes? No, I didn't.
Just go to YouTube and look at behind the scenes. The director is like he's filming everything from the hood of a car chasing them, through these war-torn streets or whatever. I know I mentioned this to you before, but that's worth checking out. Extraction. My wife and I were like, "Oh man, that was pretty goddamn good." It was real good.
Yeah, it was good. The Michael B. Jordan one was pretty good. I didn't love that one quite as much. And that movie with Chris Pratt, The Tomorrow War.
That was pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
The aliens and the lead up to them, the reveal of them.
I don't spoil nothing.
I'm not going to spoil anything. Mm-hmm. But when they're revealed,
all right,
it was so affecting, and they didn't look like what's that Tom Cruise movie?
War of the World?
Yeah, where not that one.
You're talking about
where he dies and comes back.
It's called Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah,
but it was called something else.
The Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, that was a different one.
Oh, okay.
That came out at the same time. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I think it was Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it might have been Edge of Tomorrow, but it's like they spent so much time on the design of the monsters or the aliens or the threat. Mm-hmm. Well, in this Chris Pratt joint, man, they spent the proper amount of time, and I mean, they are really. Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah,
it's a really good.
Even also, it's not an action movie. Well, maybe like a family action horror movie or whatever. But A Quiet Place 2.
Yeah, it is kind of family. I would say that.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was good.
It was pretty good.
Huh.
The first one is great, but this one was pretty good. And I loved the when they finally showed you the aliens when they showed up.
Yeah,
you were like, just in the middle of town, aliens just show up, flipping cars over and just like just going crazy. And, like, God damn, it was crazy, but it was very good. It was really good, for a movie where they don't talk much in it,
Yeah.
And they did do a decent bit of talking, and I liked Cillian Murphy.
Yeah,
I liked his character being added in.
That was a good movie. I saw that in theaters out of town on the job.
Okay, yeah, good one. But the late Tony Scott, his career, man, we're all fans. And I'm kind of a fan like early and then kind of dropped off a little bit and then kind of came back in the middle and then dropped off a little bit and then came back again kind of toward the end.
Yeah.
But where do you guys stand with him?
I love his, when I think of him, I think of certainly Spy Game. I had mentioned that being my favorite. Mm-hmm. Didn't he do Enemy of the State?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the frantic filmmaking that he does. I mean, I feel like I don't know. Something about seeing his movies, I feel, for me back then especially, all of that translated into, a well-produced, good movie. Good action movie, good tight performances. Mm-hmm. I was really taken aback, when he took his own life. I still don't know and I was going to read about it last night, but I said, you know what? I'm going to let Swain and the fellas fill me in on what happened with him? What was the deal? I've
heard two different stories. I've heard that he had suffered from depression most of his life, one. And then I think they say that Ridley Scott in an interview well after this said that he had been diagnosed with cancer and that he was kind of dealing with treatments. Mm. And his family had decided to keep it, they didn't talk about it at all in public and whatever. And, he just went to this bridge in, I think, San Jose or somewhere, San Pedro or somewhere, and just jumped off. And two of the people who were there on the bridge with him said, one person said he kind of hesitated and then he jumped. Another person said he just literally just got out of the car, climbed up, and just jumped. And they found antidepressants in his bloodstream and some other stuff. So, I mean,
tragic.
Yeah, very tragic. Because he was a talented filmmaker.
Absolutely.
I watched well after the fact. I didn't see it in theaters, and I didn't, had no interest. But I watched Unstoppable maybe like a year or two ago.
Oh yeah, with Chris Pine.
Yeah, and I kind of was like, Chris Pine and Denzel, Rosario.
Denzel though,
Yeah, but it's kind of like, Denzel and playing the old man vibe,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was good, and it was entertaining, and it was fast paced, and it had all of the all the stuff that you like, and it wasn't quite as kinetic and as crackly as Man on Fire or something like this. But I enjoyed it, man, and I enjoyed, even though it didn't have the humor that the original did, the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I enjoyed that as a remake. I thought that was really good. Deja Vu is another one I like. Another movie he did with Denzel. Yeah. Man on Fire, I think, is
that's
probably
one of my
best,
favorite movies. Yeah,
that's their best collaboration to me. Where I was just like, wow, this is all the things I want from Denzel. Yeah. I want him killing people and then doing that cool Denzel walk. Yeah. Afterwards. Yeah. I want
that's all for you.
Yeah. Hey man, I want it. But he, Crimson Tide, True Romance, Days of Thunder, etc. So, what about you, Adrian?
Man, for me, it's all about his aesthetic, especially like his 80s through his very early 90s aesthetic. Mm-hmm. It's all about the smoke. It's all about that orange tint. His movies, when he does them, they're California movies. Like, if California was a film, it would be a Tony Scott movie.
Yeah.
That orange tint, even though it's bright and sunny outside, And the way I think he got some of this from Ridley as well. Little things he puts in the background to stimulate or irritate your eye. Mm-hmm. You know how Ridley Scott has that thing of like, something's against the wall and it's scintillating. There's some type of light outside that's just scintillating against the wall just to add visual interest. Mm-hmm. You saw a lot of that in Last Boy Scout. Like when they're in the pool. They'll cast a light off the pool to have that shimmering against the wall. Mm-hmm. Or when Bruce Willis was at home and he was in the domestic scene, it's all white, but there's shaft of lights coming through the curtains and everything.
Right.
It really looks like a music video, which is something he obviously did as well. But just there's certain hallmarks about that Tony Scott lighting, that Tony Scott cinematography that really just sits so right with me. Like, I love that stuff, and think about this too. You really don't see anybody, this sounds real stupid, but you really don't see anybody tilting the camera anymore, and doing those subjective shots.
Talking about like the Dutch angle?
Dutch angle? You don't see Dutch angles anymore.
Wow.
Thank you. You don't see that anymore. But just stuff like, okay, when Hallenbeck is knocked out, he's coming to, and there's that move of turning the camera, but then his flashbacks are also turning, skewed to the side, and stuff like that. You really don't see that anymore. Mm-hmm. Just not just cinematic gymnastics, I would call it. Not like the Palmering thing, but just something where you use the camera as a part of storytelling, to where now a lot of action movies and filming like that is just so distant. It's just so, here's a medium shot. We'll go to a close-up, but it's still just, everything's at a distance.
Yeah.
It's not visceral.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Scott brought to his movies, just the visual and the visceral, and I don't think that, and I think people have taken tenets of that to try and replicate it, but you really can't replicate that. He was kind of the master, the architect of that style, for sure.
One of my favorite shots in the movie was when Hallenbeck was hit over the back of the head, and it cut to a shot that was overhead, and it was right when he got hit and he fell.
Yep.
And so you see him like falling forward from above or whatever, right when it hit him. I guess that's a Tony Scott shot.
Yes. And before that too, another thing you don't see, and this almost like a comic booky shot too, where he's outside of the bar and he's looking up at the billboard of Bayard.
Yeah.
You know, I love that shot. Like it had to be in post-production. Somebody composited that together.
I couldn't tell how far he was away from that billboard until he threw
The way he could throw a bottle up on top of a building and hit a billboard. I was like, wow, you got an arm, yo. Like you need to join the NFL.
But those type of shots you don't really see anymore. You know, and the other thing too that I was thinking, and I'll give it over to you, is with the movie, I was thinking about it too. I don't know if Frank Miller saw this movie. I don't know if he even knew this movie existed. But there is a lot of stuff in this movie that you see in other Sin City issues. You know, one of the characters has an issue with a high-ranking government official there in Sin City. That's that yellow bastard.
Okay.
There was another thing of
strippers.
Yes, strippers.
Yeah,
prostitutes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot
Sex
of
workers.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a lot of that that's in here from, you know, that you can see in like The Last Boy Scout. But again, that may have just been indicative of, you know, that time period. You know, that's reflective of, okay, this stuff is out there in the zeitgeist of these movies. We'll bring that sensibility to these comics. But I thought there were things in the movie itself that felt very comic booky. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's and not comic booky in the sense of it's superheroes, like what people would know today.
Right.
But certain shots, the way they're composited, it's like, wow, that's an angle that you wouldn't see normally in life, but you would see it exaggerated in like a comic book sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Giving you guys the last word, do you guys think that how much, because you mentioned it here a second ago, how much do you think Tony Scott's style pairs up with Ridley's style in terms of as a director and as an aesthetics? Because they're like, if you hadn't told me they were brothers, and then you told me after the fact, I could feel it and kind of sense it, but I'm not exactly sure what it is that I'm sensing.
Hit me with 5 Ridley Scott movies.
Alien. Blade Runner. Somebody's watching me. Someone to watch over me. 1492. Kingdom of Heaven. There's one in 80. The Duelist. That's 77.
I feel like Ridley Scott is more of a measured filmmaker where he's slowing down a little, whereas Tony Scott is more of, I don't want to use the word gimmick, but he's kind of an in and out, what are the kids like in these days kind of filmmaker, you know.
I think Ridley cares a little more about character and story.
Yeah.
I get more of a sense of that, you know, from the different choices he's made. Like I think he did Matchstick Man with Nicolas Cage.
Right. Yes.
And
it's a little more cerebral.
So there's a little more variety there in terms of what he does. But he does the fantastic and the over the top really well.
Yeah.
He certainly does it well. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, the crossover you have is, like I was mentioning earlier, there are certain tenets that, you know, Tony was taking from Ridley. Like when I was mentioning about the lighting, you know, especially when you look at the scene in Marcone's office. That could have easily been something that Ridley set up. Like you have like this dark Baroque lighting, you know what I'm saying? And just the way the whole cinematography is set up.
Yeah.
But I think you're correct, Braxton, in terms of the dichotomy there between them is that Tony is very much more hyperbolic, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas Ridley, he almost has a European sensibility, you know, like it is very measured, but also very, very considered too, very, very designed. Like that's something they both share. Both do have a sense of design, although I think Ridley more so.
Yeah,
Ridley's the one that does his own.
He draws. Yeah.
Yeah. His what do you call it?
What, a storyboard?
Storyboards.
Yeah, and he's very hands-on, you know, in terms of the design aspect of his films. And you can see that in like Alien and Blade Runner, and you know, even stuff like Prometheus as well. You know, whereas you know, for me, Tony is all about the look, the visual, but also how is this shot going to go? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how is this going to get from here to here? You know what I'm saying? So there is some crossover there for sure, but they also are and were their own directors too, for sure. That concludes this episode of Sidebar Forever, hosted by Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt, and Adrienne Johnson. You can find us online at sidebarforever.com. Any emails or questions can be directed to us at sidebarforever@gmail.com. And also, subscribe to us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.